Messiah! I'm not the Messiah! I say you are, Lord, and I should know. I followed a few. Hail, Messiah! I'm not the Messiah. Will you please listen? I am not the Messiah. Do you understand? Honestly!
Only the true Messiah denies his divinity.
What? Well, what sort of chance does that give me? All right, I am the Messiah. He is the Messiah. Now, fuck off.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to talk about Dune Part 2 because I saw the movie a couple of days ago and I really wanted to talk about this movie and explain why I enjoyed it so much and why everybody's talking about it. I really think it's one of the best science fiction movies that has come out in the last couple of years. I feel like it's an opinion a lot of people share because you really have to see this movie to believe what I'm saying. I mean, it's still been sitting fresh in my mind for the last couple of days, so it's still going to take a little bit of time to decide why I like this movie so much because there's so many moving parts to it and so many aspects that it improves a lot in the first movie. And I want to discuss a lot of the main principal themes in the movie and also like what I enjoyed so much about it and why I think this movie is really important. Also, I have to preface this video by stating that I haven't read the Dune books. I haven't read a single one, so I have nothing to compare it to. I want to get into them in the future, but I have basically an unending list of books I have to get through first. So maybe one day, maybe in the future before Dune Part 3 comes out. But for now, I really want to discuss the movie because I feel like this is Denis Villeneuve's best movies. I feel like everybody in this cast was amazing. It has a huge cast too. It has Timothée Chalamet, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Zendaya, a bunch of like really interesting cameos and also like characters that are going to be seen more in the third movie. I want to see where the direction of the film goes because I just liked a lot of the things about it. And I want to discuss primarily the way the story is told, like the principal religious and historical themes throughout it, because I noticed a lot of things that if you really think about them have to do with things in real life, like religious stories. It's very apparent who Paul Atreides' character is, and I just think it was a great movie. So anyways, let's go on with the review. So the setting of Dune Part 2 is in the planet of Arrakis. It picks up right after the first movie. So in the first movie, Paul Atreides, he escapes the massacre that took place in his palace by the Harkonnen family, which is basically like the main antagonists of the Dune series. I mean, so far. We will see where the story goes from there. That's something I'll discuss till the end with spoilers, obviously. And basically, he escapes to this like tribe in the mountains. And there's where he meets Zendaya's character, Chani, and they form a very strong relationship. And here he helps them basically fight against the Harkonnen family, which are mining spice down in the dunes. And it's basically the main reason they're there, for power, for basically money, like basically farming this spice in order to increase their army and their power. That's something I noticed in James Cameron's Avatar too, like the imperialist themes, like the kind of like the capitalist expansionist themes that are there in the movie. And that's something that is kind of there, but not as much as some of the other like religious themes that I'll talk about soon. But basically, I like the setting. I feel like the first movie sets up a lot of things that really pay off in the second film. So basically, Paul is trying to help his family escape in the beginning. And as he becomes more intertwined with the characters, like he meets later on, for example, Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, serves as like a mentor figure for him.
Don't try to impress anyone. You're brave, we all know that. Be simple. Be direct.
I thought that relationship with him was amazing. I feel like his character is really fun, and also it sparked a lot of memes. Like basically Paul did something and he was like, oh my god, he's the chosen one. Paul would do something unusual and Stilgar's character would be like, Lisan al-Gaib is here. And that has a very important implication because Lisan al-Gaib is basically like the chosen one, kind of like this messianic Jesus-like figure for the tribes that live south. But so basically this film follows a lot of biblical and religious themes that pay off in the end, and Paul basically, his character is like using that a little bit to his advantage, but slowly starting to realize that he is also destined for great things. And that is something that is left to the viewer's interpretation, whether this is actually like something that is a part of the real religion or that it's something that he's taken advantage of, that he is basically playing along in order to get the trust from the people in the south and basically use that to his advantage and take revenge against the Harkonnen family. I'm a little bit more inclined towards the first one because I like to believe there's a little bit of magic going on there in the Dune universe. And from now on, I'm going to discuss some heavy spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, please skip until the end or watch another video, but I'm going to discuss some heavy stuff soon. But before I start with the heavy themes surrounding Paul's character, I want to focus on some of the other characters and their performance. The Harkonnen family is expanded much more in the second part. I feel like Austin Butler's character, Feyd-Rautha, it was just amazing. I feel like he was a really iconic villain. I loved his performance. He's kind of like this creepy, psychotic character who also is very cold, calculating, intelligent, and he's also very prideful. I think there's a lot of great things. I think there were a lot of great things going on there. And also the Bene Gesserit family, I don't know if that pronounce that right. I don't remember how it's pronounced, so I probably botched it. But I feel like their family is really interesting, especially with the new cast. I mean, Christopher Walken is here, and Florence Pugh, I feel like, and Léa Seydoux, I think she was there in the movie too, and her character was really fun and interesting. And I feel like Florence Pugh's character is going to have a much bigger part in the third part of the story. But like Dune 1 sets a lot of things in Dune 2. Dune 2 is going to set up a lot of things. So basically, I like those characters. I like the way they were portrayed, and also their performances were amazing. The action was amazing too. I think this movie had a lot more action than the first one. So if you watched Dune 1 and didn't like it because it was apparently too slow, I disagree with that. I think that movie had a lot of great things going on for it, and you will like a lot of action. I think this one is going to be for you. So I really recommend people, even if you didn't like Dune Part 1, to watch Part 2. So anyways, I'm sure there's a lot of things I missed with the characters, but I really enjoyed them and the way they're portrayed. But now I'm going to go with the main course, which is basically analyzing Paul's character and why I think it has a lot of important themes. So like I said before, Dune Part 2 focuses on Timothée Chalamet's character, Paul Atreides, who is basically a member of royalty who escapes, he survives, and basically his whole story has this messianic feeling to it. He's basically a martyr also for the Atreides family because they basically get all wiped out except for him and his mother. This is a character that a lot of people link to Jesus Christ for a lot of important reasons, for figures like the Buddha, and there's a lot of important themes in that story. I feel like it was amazing the way that it was portrayed. Also, like, there are a lot of explicit religious themes, especially with the cults that follow him, like the widespread religion in the South, but also there were a lot of really important themes on the down low that were really important for the movie. I feel like that's something that it has to be analyzed too from a lot of different perspectives. Also, there's a whole deal with Paul's mother, Jessica Atreides, which is basically a whole other story in herself. There's a lot of comparisons with the Virgin Mary, Jesus's mother, the way that she is portrayed, especially as her character develops. He basically becomes like kind of like this psychic figure. She becomes a really important figure for the Fremen, the Reverend Mother, and that is something that I really enjoy. Like all these themes, the way they basically take inspiration from real life stories, from legends in the world that we live in, and I feel like the way they weave it into the story, like the typical science fiction story, is something that is really well done and something that has basically never been done before in like this scale and scope. I mean, obviously you get like stories like Star Wars and, for example, Attack on Titan that has a lot of like similar themes, for example, like the idea of the chosen one, of someone being special, but I feel like it's not done to this extent with the religious themes, and especially the way they also portray religious war toward the end, and the way that people, like their fervor allows them to make some really intense decisions and basically have like unshaken faith in their leader and Messiah. Faith is another strong topic in the Dune franchise, and especially Dune Part 2. The way that people like slowly start increasing their faith in this new Messiah. There's a little also debate in the beginning of the movie, like between Chani and Stilgar especially. There's this particular scene where they're basically debating the idea of the chosen one, and basically Chani doesn't think that it's going to happen. Stilgar is still unshaken in his faith, and that has some really important implications, and I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, I really enjoyed the way the movie portrayed all those themes, and I really liked it because it has also like real life implications. It's basically the story is a way to portray those themes in a very powerful manner that I enjoyed quite a bit, and I think a lot of people will. So before I finish the video, I want to focus on another important topic that I noticed, which is basically the topic of war, like especially nuclear war and also religious wars. So basically, like I said before, Dune is a story of faith, of basically religious fervor, of legends coming to real life, and also basically there's a lot of politics, a lot of economics topics there, a little bit of royalty, so there's like a lot of things going on. Also, the topic of war is something that is present but in the background, especially I think when the book was written in the 1960s by Frank Herbert. I feel like he had like a strong influence with the Cold War, with basically nuclear weapons, because it surprised me the way that nuclear weapons are portrayed in this. There's a scene where basically the Atreides family has like the keys to a nuclear arsenal, which I thought was really interesting, and I noticed the obvious implications from the Cold War and the way they're used, the way that Atreides uses these weapons to basically gain power and influence, and he uses his armies and his like basically chokehold over the Harkonnens and the Ben Gesserit families, and that's the way he gains power. I feel like that was a present topic that a lot of people didn't like focus on too much, but it's something I want to mention. And it's obvious the topic of religious war is something that is present from the beginning towards the end, but also more present in the ending. The way Paul basically gains power and he wants to become a stronger person over the Fremen and over the families that he just conquered towards the end of the movie. So spoilers, I warned you, that's what happens in the end, and it sets up the third movie. And this is interesting because in the end, there's also a scene where Paul basically is informed that the tribes like further down south, like they don't want to follow him, they don't believe him still, and instead of taking his time to like analyze and enjoy the power he just acquired, he basically uses this time to basically just immediately just launch a religious war against them, which is something we're going to see in part 3, which adapts the second book in the franchise, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. But I really like the way they portray those themes and Paul's slow descent into villainy. I guess that is something that's going to happen because of his visions too. That is the last thing I'm going to mention. I also love the topic of Paul having visions, like basically warning everybody that he doesn't want to go south because he is afraid of the person he might become, and then slowly starting to see that become reality. I feel like that has some really important implications, and yeah, I just really like this movie. I could just talk about it all day because I noticed a lot of things that are worth talking about, but yeah, I want to keep it brief for this video. But yeah, if you haven't seen Dune 2, please go watch it. Overall, as a final score, I'm going to give it an 88 out of 100, and might go up as the future goes on because there's a lot of things that I keep noticing, but yeah, I really liked it much more than the first one. If you want to see my complete ranking of all my favorite movies, please go visit me on Letterboxd. But yeah, I really like this one. I think it's one of the greatest movies in the last couple years. And yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on Dune Part 2. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.